Welcome to the Growth Through Adversity podcast, where men are forged, not coddled. Here we dive deep into the path of true transformation in pursuit of physical, mental, spiritual, and temporal growth. We talk training, nutrition, business, mindset, and spirituality. We embrace strength and we loathe ease. We reject weakness in every form and cultivate power, the will to power itself. This is the rebirth of modern man. Raw masculinity, tempered by reason, virtue, and right action, because nothing of value is earned without sacrifice. Let's begin our apotheosis together. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Growth Through Adversity podcast with your host, Ragnar the Warwolf. So probably over a month ago, because I'm a very busy man, maybe even closer to 2 months ago, I did a poll on my Instagram story, and I promised that I would make you guys a fucking story about what it was like to be in prison for 11 years. So for those of you that don't, so I'm going to do that right now because I'm a man of my word and I didn't forget about it. I've just had a lot of other video projects that came first. But we are here now and we're going to make this shit fucking happen. So for those of you that don't know, I did 11 years in prison and I promised that I would share what it was like. So this episode is going to be about chaos. It's going to be about transformation. It's going to be about how I turned hell into a weapon. So let's go ahead and get into it. How it started was that I was wild. I was just fucking wild. And it started in adolescence, to be honest with you. And I don't really think it was an aberration from how many boys are when they're confined by modern society and they don't have a lot of outlets for that masculine energy that has not yet been tempered and controlled. So I was bouncing off the walls, and I grew up in the 90s, which was like the feed 'em Ritalin age, right? That was the age where it was just like everything could be solved by some fucking puke psychologist and their fucking drugs. And so they drugged the shit out of me because I was high energy, I was wired, I was all over the place. My dad swears those drugs were a part of my later addiction and what went on. I don't want to put any responsibility on anything other than myself. So, and I don't really know, but I know I did hate those fucking drugs. They made me feel fucking lethargic. They made me feel like I wasn't myself. So I did everything I could to cheek them and to pass them off to my friends at school that would, do other things with them. But yeah, it implanted in me an overall mistrust for the establishment and for doctors and definitely shrinks, but really for doctors and just the establishment as a whole, which ended up being really beneficial to me because that's what got me into fitness. That's what got me into alternative medicine, into preventative medicine, and into nutrition as medicine, and really just holistic health that doesn't rely on a fucking pill and doesn't rely on a fucking doctor or the establishment and what they're telling you is good for you. So it benefited me because my entire life is based on that now. My job, my income is based on it. My personal philosophy is based on it. So ultimately, these things happen to us for a reason, I believe, and it just pushed me away from the establishment and the normal trends. But like I said, I was wild, and I was beyond wild. And as I got into my teenage years, dysfunction played in. And I got into drugs, standard story, what started as adolescent fighting and raising hell and skipping school and, evolved into drinking and smoking weed. And then that evolved into harder drugs. And, by the time I was 14, I was doing blow and fucking taking ecstasy. And by the time I was 16, I was transitioning into meth. And I had some breaks in there where I was clean and sober and I worked on the fishing boats and I did a lot of really cool shit, and I had an awesome family that was super supportive. So, yeah, I put them through fucking hell, but and nobody could tell me shit. You know what I mean? I'm the show me type, and I'm the school of hard knocks. I'm gonna learn my own way, and ain't nobody telling me nothing. And that was my mentality. I feel like now I've still got a lot of that in me, but I've definitely gotten to the point where I see the benefit in being able to learn from others' mistakes. And I didn't have that when I was younger. So with age comes wisdom. But either way, yeah, so it progressed throughout my teenage years, and then I started getting in trouble, and it was like, lightweight trouble first, little petty assaults and drunk fights and things of that nature, and they began to progress. And I caught my first felony charge at 19 for, ironically, it was a DUI, and I wasn't a felon, and it's not illegal to have a gun in Alaska, but I had a stolen gun because I had bought it off one of my drug addict friends, and they had stole it, and I obviously wasn't going to tell on them because we don't fucking do that. So it was, and I was drunk when they pulled me over, so I lied about it, and the timelines didn't match up, and so I kind of talked myself into a corner with it, and I ended up just having to eat the felony or tell, and that was a very easy choice for me at that time, and it'd still be an easy choice for me right now. So that was my first felony, and I basically got a slap on the wrist and some probation time, which I absolutely paid no attention to. And so from there it was like in and out of trouble, in and out of prison, in and out of jail, pretty short stints, just the kind of revolving door, and the drugs were escalating. I was heavily into meth at this time, and that was getting like totally out of control. And I ended up at I ended up doing about 14 months for like violations and things associated with probably new charges. I honestly don't remember the exact chronology because it was, like I said, I was fucking wild. Um, but I ended up doing about 14 months, and I got out from that, and I got clean while I was in and worked out and felt fucking great. And for whatever reason, I went like immediately back to getting high. Within a month, I was getting high again. And I remember I got out in December, and it was like, it was midwinter up here in Alaska. And I started, and I got a landscaping job shoveling snow, and I ended up, starting to get high on meth and became just an unreliable person. But I don't know why, like I sabotaged myself. I went back to the same people that I was running around with when I went to jail, and before that, and for whatever reason, I just cycled like right back to them, and got myself in the same mess, using drugs, selling drugs, to have enough money to use drugs, and just living a horrible fucking life. Um, and like any addict, like anybody that's recovered from addiction and been an addict, like you're not yourself, and you do a lot of things you're not proud of. So it's to think back on that age, the pain is pretty much gone at this stage, and there's just acceptance, and it's so distant from who I am today that it's really hard for me to even fathom. But yeah, so it's a rough ride because you're just inherently selfish. You don't give a shit about anyone except yourself and your next high. So this whole process led to an altercation. I'd actually had a previous altercation with the dude, so I there was already some bad blood cooking, and my partner in crime, if you want to call it that, he was a fucking loser, but the guy that I was doing stuff with and kind of making moves with at the time ended up fronting out a bunch of dope to this dude named Sean, and dude ripped him off and didn't want to pay him, and I kind of felt obligated to Bo, to the other guy in this triangle here, and I was buck fucking wild, and I didn't really have anything, and I wanted, and I needed to get high, and so it was like I'll go over there, and I'll collect your money. I'll confront him about it, and I'll get him to pay you. And then my logic was that I'm gonna be good out of this process too, right? And so you don't think these things through, right? So I went over to a guy's house that him and I already had fucking bad blood. We were not friends. You know what I mean? And I went over there armed, not really with the intention of taking it to that level at all, but just because I went everywhere armed at that time because I was a fucking drug addict that fucking owed a lot of people money and was doing a lot of sketchy shit. And that's just what you do when you live that life. It's like, there is a saying that I have lived my whole life by, and that I believe like inherently, and that is that if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And today the sword is a gun, obviously, because you just look weird carrying a sword around now. But I believed in that. Even at that time, I did. I was certain. that I would not make it to 25 and that I would be gunned down at some point. And it's a miracle that I wasn't. And there was a lot of very fucking close calls, this being one of them. So yeah, like I lived that at that time, and I've never lost it, you know. So it's like I believe that's a truth. That's a simple truth that if you live by the sword, it is most likely that you're going to die by the sword. So I went into the house and dude let me in, and you know, and I went in there and him and I started arguing, and I thought I would be able to kind of intimidate him and scare him because I had a pretty fucking scary reputation at the time of being a fucking loose cannon and being pretty fucking unpredictable, which was very well earned. So I thought I could kind of intimidate him and kind of fucking gaslight him into doing what I wanted him to do. But you know what you didn't don't factor in because you don't factor anything in when you're in these mind states is that he's high too, and he's just as desperate as I am, and like coming off of this would be like to him it's like the end of the world. It's life or death because like you know you feel like you're fucking dying, and he was on heroin, so that's even fucking worse because you literally physically feel like you're dying. So for whatever reason it escalated, and you know he had a gun, and I'm not even sure honestly what it was, but he you know he pulled it, and we exchanged fire in there in that house, and both of our guns jammed. I remember that. I remember I shot a couple of times, and I know I hit him clean, and I didn't know I'd been hit, but I'd also been hit. And then both of our fucking piece of shit guns jammed. Mine jammed after three, and I think his jammed after a couple. And so then we ended up attacking each other physically, you know, with our hands, and we wrestled all around that room, and blood was everywhere, and we're breaking windows and knocking shit over, and then he started, and that's like the thing, like in movies, like when you shoot somebody, even because he was shot through the heart. I didn't know this at the time, but one of the bullets went through the left ventricle of his heart, and he was dead. There was nothing they could have done to save that dude. But it's not like the movies. They don't just fall right down, you know, like unless you break the spine or cut the link to the brain, like that the instinct to survive, if anything else, kicks on even harder at that point. And you're the one that's trying to take away their ability to survive, and they fight like a fucking wild animal. It's a very animalistic thing. We were both in a survival animalistic state. But eventually the blood loss did catch up with him, and he kind of collapsed. And so I fucking obviously was fucking panicked and shit in my pants. And so I fucking ran out of there, covered in fucking blood, and drove across fucking town and somehow managed to not get pulled over on the fucking way back across town. But, you know, like I said, we're not fucking criminal masterminds, or no, I was a fucking drug addict. You know what I mean? Like there was a paper trail, there was a cell phone trail between the guy in Florida and me and the victim, and you know, and the cops aren't fucking stupid, so they started figuring fucking shit out pretty quick. And as soon as they put any pressure on the other dude, Bo, the third guy in the circle, he folded like a fucking lawn chair. You know what I mean? And sold me out in a heartbeat. You know, was giving fucking statements and names and everything. And so I ended up. It took them a few months to kind of put all the pieces together, and you know, just when I thought it was fucking, it was like coming to the spring, and I was getting ready to go fishing and maybe get clean and do some good shit. And I thought maybe like, hey, maybe I'm not going to go to prison. Just when I thought I was maybe good, because like those whole 3 months, I was like, oh, I'm so fucking fucked. You know what I mean? Like I'm fucked beyond fucked. And, but you know, it's just when I was like, oh, well, maybe I'm good. You know, the fuck federales raided the spot, and booked me for murder. They booked me for murder, murder one, murder two, the whole smorgasbord of fucking charges. And I went to Anchorage jail. And that's kind of like phase one, I guess, you know, is that jail was like, so before you go to prison, you go to jail. So I went to Anchorage jail with the Anchorage Correctional Complex. And when you have a serious charge like that, it's not like in the fucking Law and Order where it's like, oh, you know, you're going to trial the next day. No, it's like, man, I sat in that jail for almost 3 years, I think, two years and some change. You know, doing the pretrial motions and going through the whole rigmarole that happens when you do something like that. And that time was wild. Like, I didn't give a fuck. I thought I was going to prison for life. I thought remember I was 21 at this time too. So it was like I was a kid, I was a baby. And so I thought I was done. I thought I was cooked. So I was fighting every fucking day. And people would come in with dope, the dope sack, and we would just jump them and take it. And it was wild. It was wild time, man. And I didn't give a fuck. Like, anybody said anything, looked at me sideways. I was looking for a fight. So I spent a lot of time in the hole. I was either fighting with other inmates. Sometimes I was stupid enough then too that I would even fight with the cops sometimes. I was just wild, you know what I mean? And I just did not give a fuck. So I had no vision. I had virtually no self-control. It was just purely like, if I'm going to live in prison the rest of my life, I'm not going to do it as a victim. I'm not going to do it as prey. I'm going to do it as a fucking wolf, as a predator, right? Because that's all there is in prison. It's very weird. It's its own little ecosystem, and it is purely like Darwinian, and it is Darwinian in the most Darwinian in the most basic, unimaginative sense, really. And on the top layer, there are deeper layers to it that I learned later that, like, you can control people without violence, like there are other, it does go quite a bit deeper than that, but not to a 21-year-old. It doesn't. It's like you just and really at its core, it is just the strong survive and the weak are victims and prey, and that's it. And it doesn't really matter. Like, obviously, the first line of prey are your child molesters, your rapists, your fucking rats, which are all three basically in the same category, especially child molesters and rats. Fucking rapists actually are kind of above those two, ironically, but it actually makes sense because those that prey on children, there's nothing more fucking pathetic and foul. And those that flip on their friends and give up their friends have no honor. Neither one of those have any honor. So, and in a lot of ways, prison does reflect almost like medieval values of honor and like of the very physical, tangible sense of honor, because it's all you really have in there is your word and like what people say about you and and your reputation that precedes you. So if any of that's not good, you're fucked. You know what I mean? Because once you get marked as a victim, like, if you're not marked as a victim, you're good until you get marked as a victim, and people are going to try you. They're going to test you, and you have to be willing to stand up for yourself every fucking time, because it takes one. I watched it happen so many fucking times. It takes one fucking time where you don't stand up for yourself, where you let something slide, where you let somebody call you a punk or call you a bitch, and that shit spreads like wildflower through the whole system. And then it's like there's no more hesitance to fuck with you. You're marked as a bitch. You know what I mean? So every place you go and you're not and then it's like then they team up on you and they gang up on you. Um, so yeah, you gotta just nip that shit right in the bud. So that was my whole mentality in jail, and that was what I did. It was fucking wild. So after a few years in, I did get a deal because my case, honestly, like, I mean, I shouldn't have went over there, right? Obviously, but ultimately, like, the dude let me in. He knew me. Like, it was not like ultimately my case, and the DA and the judge even conceded this, that my case kind of towed the line between self-defense and like murder. You know what I mean? Because they did say that we believe that you believe you were defending yourself, and you probably were, but and they actually specifically said that, we don't live in Dodge City. That was what the judge said. We don't live in Dodge City. Like, this isn't the fucking Wild West. If you have a problem with somebody, you don't like throw a gun on and go over and confront them. And and then when they give you a reaction, shoot them and kill them. Like, that's not the world we live in. We live in a world, a nation of laws and order, and that's exactly what he said. And he's not wrong. He's right. Now, I kind of came to the conclusion over the years that he is right. So, like, I'm not resentful at all about it. I think they actually, honestly, probably gave me what was fair for what I did. I believe, honestly, I spent just under 11 years in, and for what towed the line of self-defense, but really I was living a fucking crazy life, and you kind of lose the right to claim self-defense when you're living like that and when you're putting yourself in those situations. Not necessarily completely, but this isn't a fucking, I'm not defending myself here legally. I'm just kind of breaking down some of the parameters. So I ended up getting I ended up having to serve 11 years. So when I got to prison from jail, so after jail, when you get sentenced, then you go to prison. I went to Spring Creek because my crime was serious and I had been in a lot of trouble. So I was closed custody, which is the highest custody in the state, other than max custody, which just means you're locked in the fucking hole and indefinitely, which I did make it there too, to the big leagues. But so I was closed custody, so they sent me out to Seward. And when I got to Seward, it was like the first years, I mean, were just savage. It was just wild. So immediately when I got to Seward, I joined a gang. And it was really just half because that's what you do in prison. And, partially because of survival and partially because like I accepted the fact that this is my world now. You know what I mean? Like this is where I live and these are the rules that you play by. And in prison, the gangs run everything. So if you want to be, totally secure and if you want to be in a position of power in prison, as crazy and as sick and as fucking backwards as that sounds, then you become a part of gangs. And gangs are pretty much oriented around along racial lines in prison. It's not really like an actual real racist thing. It's more just like a survival thing that's just part of prison culture and you just gravitate towards your own race and the gangs are split along racial lines. It's very medieval, it's very tribal, it's very old, it's very outdated. But that's just how prison runs. You don't really question the world that you live in. You just live in it and do your best to fucking make it. So in the beginning, when you first join a gang, you go through a phase of like initiation where you have to prove yourself. You have to prove your loyalty to the gang, that you're a soldier, that you'll do whatever they tell you, that you will be there anytime something happens, that you're not fucking flaky, that you're not weak, that you're not going to create drama to bring back on the gang. We call it prospecting. You prospect for like a year. And during that time, like you're what we call on deck. So that means if anybody hits the compound that's not supposed to be on the compound or that you guys have had problems with before, you're the missile. And they call you missile because they shoot you at them and you fucking blow up on them. And that's fucking your job basically as a prospect. And I did a lot of that, right? And I kind of like that. And then you go to the hole, for 60, 70 days, you get back out, and then boom, somebody else, so that's just it. And I was so full of hate and so full of anger at that time, just at myself, at my situation, my relationship with the girl I loved at that time was falling apart. I felt like I was alone, like I was isolated from my family, like I didn't have anything. And so, I just took that out in with violence. That was it. I took it out with fighting, with attacking people, with proving myself and just gave myself wholeheartedly to that cause. It was so stupid, but that's what you do. And I will say too that like now it seems like, damn, that was fucking stupid. But when you're 21 and you go to prison for 11 years, like that feels like the rest of your life. Like when you're 21 and you're thinking about getting out at 30, that's the rest of your life. That's how you feel. It's not the reality, but that's what's going through your fucking mind. You know what I mean? Now it's like, damn, I was a idiot, but I don't know. It's weird. But even then, like seeds of a spiritual awakening started to grow. I found it was actually at this time in Seward that somebody gave me my first pamphlets on Odinism, Asatru, and I started reading them and they just like spoke to my soul, right? So I got heavily into that. I got heavily into, and when you're in a situation of adversity like that, where everything has been taken from you and you don't have anything else and you're looking for meaning, it's super natural to turn to spiritual reasonings. Like, why is this happening to me? What is the spiritual? There has to be some kind of meaning for all of this suffering I'm going through. It can't just be because the universe is random and chaotic and I did something stupid in a random chaotic universe. You cannot live believing that. There has to be deeper meaning. So you seek it. So I read a lot of philosophy. I got into Nietzsche. I got into reading quite a bit of, I got into Jung. I got into all these different, like starting to read about, just the deeper mysteries of life. And coming across that, I came across just really like starting to figure out that I was meant for something more, that I had a greater purpose, right? And it was super beneficial, but I believe that, and this is one of my fundamental differences with other people and other religions, is that I believe spirituality is as much action as it is belief, right? Like, I don't think you can really have a spiritual belief without actually having action too. Like, you can't just say that you're something and then, but all of your actions counteract and are incongruent with the tenets of that spiritual belief. That's very common today, in the modern world, where people don't really, they're not really like, there's no real spiritual connotation to it. It's more almost just like cultural. They go to church because they've been told they're supposed to. Um, but they live like shit all week and then they go, it just doesn't make sense to me. So spirituality is a blend of both belief and action, right? And my actions didn't cohere with like a Norse code, which was a code of strength. It was a code of honor. It was a code of self-discipline. It was a code of self-sacrifice. Um, and I wasn't living that. Like, I mean, I was living the like physical side of it, I suppose. Like, I wasn't backing down from anybody. I was fighting when I needed to fight. I was fighting the battle. I was living like what a warrior's expected to live in prison. And so, I was living in coherence with it at that, but it's so much deeper than that. There's so much deeper levels of personal responsibility that I was ignoring. I was getting high. I was doing all these things that are inherently weak, that had taken me away from my family, that had sowed so much pain and so much chaos in my life. And I knew that was wrong. And I knew that I could not continue on this path and be fucking fake. So it planted the seeds of a spiritual awakening. So again, during this time, I was fighting all the time. I had two back-to-back fights. I beat up, well, I didn't, weren't really fights. I beat up a child molester that showed up there that was a fucking freak. And I mean, like, I think that was the one, that one got me maxed out. So no, there was an altercation with the Bloods over another member of my group. There was some bad blood or something from a different prison, and they tried to jump him, and I jumped in and helped him, which you're obligated to do. So we went to the hole for that. And then, oh no, and then right when I got out of the hole there, the child molester guy, and I knew him about him because I'd been in a different jail with him when his paperwork came out. And so I brought it up. So when you bring it up, like, you got to stand on your words. So, and there I was pretty much the lowest man on the totem pole at that time. So I was the one that was gonna go beat this fucking dude up, which I was actually happy to do because he was a fucking freak, disgusting weirdo, and he needed to get mopped. I had basically told him at another jail, he was in another unit with us, and he was like paying rent to one of the gangs in there that was, I think, a bunch of soft bitches. But because they wanted to buy drugs with his money, and he had a lot of money on the street, so he's having his people send money to their people, and then they'd buy drugs with it. So they were overlooking the fact that he was a weirdo. He was like he was an ice cream man that was like, using that job to get close to kids and to molest them. Like, and then he got out on parole and violated his parole by going and starting another ice cream truck business. I wonder why. He just really likes driving the ice cream truck. No, he was fucking a predator. He was looking for kids to prey on. So yeah, and so I knew about it. I'd seen it on the news and shit. And so I confronted them about it. And we had him beat up and moved out of that mod at that time, and they was mad about it. Weird fucking dope fiend shit. But either way, and I told him in that unit that you'll never walk a compound. You're not going to pay your way as long as I'm in and fucking I know people, like, any compound you touch down on, we're gonna fuck you up. So just don't even, just go straight to PC and sit in the hole and do your fucking time in the hole. Because anywhere you go, we're gonna fuck you up. I probably made him that promise. I gave him that word. So I was really happy to fuck him up because he came out to the compound and people were hemming and hawing, and nobody wanted to lose their shit and go to the hole. And so I beat the fuck out of him in the gym and got pepper sprayed, and it was good fun. But so then I went to the hole for that, and then I got a very stern warning from admin, from the head fucking PO, that one more one more incident involving violence and I would be maxed out, which just means you never get out of the hole. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna straight and narrow, keep it legit, keep my head low, and just let the heat die because I was super hot at the time, and I'd earned my stripes. I'd proven myself. I was definitely not the one on deck. There were people much far below me in the hierarchy now, so I was good, and I literally legitimately fucking was gonna live that life. And I got out, and within a couple months, I ended up in a unit with a lot of my friends, and we were playing pinochle. And in prison, you gamble for pinochle. It's a big fucking deal. And there's always one victim on the table that sucks, that you're all just peeling their fucking money. And like any other pinochle game, we had a victim, and he was on there, and he was way down. And it was payday. So payday's store day. When you go to the store, that's when you go get the money. And this guy was down hundreds of bucks. And it was early in the morning. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning, and everybody else on the pinochle table was asleep except this fucking retard and me. And I was getting up. I was up, and I was running the stairs. I was wanting to be my routine in the morning. I would run the stairs 20 times, and then I would do 20 burpees, and I'd do that for like 45 minutes every morning. That was my morning cardio. And so I was just, minding my own business, programming, running up and down the stairs, doing my little fucking burpees. And man, he just came at me crazy. He was like, "Man, you guys aren't gonna do me like that. I want to play before the store. The store's at noon. Half these fucking dudes sleep till noon, right?" And so, but I was still trying to be cool. I didn't want to go the whole. So I was like, "Look, dude, it's all good. You wake everybody else. I'm not gonna go wake people up to play fucking cards at 6 o'clock in the morning because you owe fucking money. But if you wake everybody up, I will stop my workout and I'll come down and play and let you get run back. You're not gonna win back $200 fucking in one morning, but whatever, one can dream. You're just actually going to go further in the hole and be even dumber. So I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely down to do that, but I'm not going to wake everybody up. That's disrespectful. That causes problems, right? So then he seethed on that, and then he came back and he was like, "Man, fuck you. You're trying to get over on me." And I still tried to like backpedal, but you can't really back like the tone and the aggression in the tone, and there were people that could hear it. And so it's like you can't really back. So I had to check him. I couldn't just like run away from it. You know what I mean? Because then everybody's like, "Damn, Ragnar got punked out by that dude. Fucking, he wouldn't even fight him." But I didn't really want to fight him because I had so much on the line, and I knew I was going to get buried if I did. And it was 8 o'clock in the morning, so we weren't going to get away with it because there's like three people awake, and the fucking cop sitting at his desk staring at me. So I'm like, all right, fuck it. I was like, "Look, dude, I don't ever talk to you crazy," and I didn't. I was very respectful at this time. I was beginning to mature. I don't ever talk to you crazy, and he was weak, so I didn't really want to fuck. I'm not like it's not really my thing to pick on the weak. I like to pick on the strong. And I don't ever talk to you crazy, so just don't fucking talk to me crazy, man. And he's like, "I'm ready to go to the room right now." And that's a challenge. The room is like where you go fight. And I'm like, and you cannot back down from that. That's the equivalent to them calling you a punk or a bitch, or that's, you're getting called out. You get called to the room. You've got one option: quietly go there and fight. And I was like, but I still tried to let him fucking live. And I was like, "Look, dude, I'm gonna promise, I'm gonna tell you right now, you don't want to do that. If we go to that, it's gonna be really bad for you. I promise you that, and just like don't let this shit go, and we're good." And I still tried to give him an out there to like back out and apologize, and I would have let him walk away. "No, I'm ready to go." So he fucking takes his fucking glasses off and fucking storms off to his room. So I'm like, "What?" And I followed that dude, and I beat that dude like I've never fucking there was so much blood on that fucking there was blood that I talked to the mod workers afterwards. Like I saw him like years later, and they said, "Yo, we ain't never seen that much blood. There was blood on the ceiling." Yeah, I was so mad because I knew I was so fucked that I was basically trying to kill the dude. Like I was waiting. The cops were gonna have to physically stop me. Like I wasn't gonna stop. I was gonna beat that dude until either he just physically could not be beaten anymore, or until the cops physically fucking pepper sprayed me and pulled me off of him because he had fucked my whole program up. And I knew I was going to do years in the hole no matter what, if I punched him once or I beat his fucking skull into the ground. So I was like total fucking berserk mode. But yeah, they said they'd never seen a fight more. There was blood all over the fucking ceiling, blood under the fucking pools of it. You know what I mean? And even one of the cops came back and they're like, "Damn, Stegall," like he was a veteran. He'd been a fucking in there for 30 years. And he's like, "Man, it's not the bloodiest fight I've ever seen, but it was definitely top three." And I was like, "Okay, cool. At least I got some fucking street cred for that one." But yeah, so I mopped him up. The fucking cops came. They fucking pepper sprayed us, took us to the hole. And so true to their word, they AdSeg 10 me, which is AdMax, and that basically means that you are on a process where you don't get out of the hole. So you sit for 1 year minimum. You sit for 1 year from once you complete your disciplinary stuff. So there's always an investigation to that. And then you do punitive time, which is like they take everything from you and you just live for fucking 60 days in an empty cell or 120 days in an, it's fucking, it's so fucking miserable. Psychological torture is what it is. So after all that's complete, then you're just on AdSec and you can have your little books back at that point and your papers back and shit. But you're still locked in a cell 23 hours a day. You get 1 hour out in a little dog kennel alone, also. Solitude is a motherfucker. But so, and you're on that indefinitely. So it's minimum of 1 year, but they review you every year, and then they'll give you up to a 6 month hit. So and if you get any little infraction in the hole, it restarts your time. And some of these fucking cops are just bitches, right? You know what I mean? Some of them are cool. They're just there to get a paycheck and they're all right and they don't really fuck with you and they don't want you to fuck with them and they just wanted like their job to be easy. But some of them are like they tuck their fucking pants into their combat boots when they show up in the morning and they like couldn't make it as a fucking trooper because, they couldn't do fucking 15 push-ups and they couldn't work as a high school security guard because there was like some suspicious shit involving young teenage girls in their past. And so it's like DOC is the end of the line for them, right? Is as in law enforcement, right? And they're just dicks and they instigate and they fuck with you and they write you up, when you do anything. So I got a couple of little like for cussing and like stupid little infractions that would set me back like 6 months. So all told, I ended up doing 3 years in the hole. Oh, and then once your reviews are up, then you have to do a 1 year program in the hole called the step down, where they slowly grade you into being closer to the yard, right? So it starts with like total lockdown, and then like you can get a job for like the second 4 month block, and then for the last like 4 month block, they let you walk around the little segregation unit a little bit during the day for a couple hours, and you have a job and you have more freedom, right? So it's kind of, and you can like be around other people for the first time, like other people there on your same level. So it's a clusterfuck, but it took 3 years. It took 2 years just sitting in a cell and then a year of doing the program. But AdSeg, when I went into the hole, I was spending time with a lot of like the kind of OG lifers that had like a lot of wisdom, right? And they'd been in a long time. A lot of these guys were over 30 calendars or definitely over 20. A lot of them were over 30. And, they came in as kids and just never got out, And so they had a ton of wisdom and a ton of game. And there was a couple of them that had done like 9 years plus in the hole. And so they told me like one of the things, and it really stuck with me. They told me like, the hole is just a weapon to break you. It's just a weapon to break a weak mind. That's all it is. It's a weapon to break a weak mind and make you conform and comply, right? They can't take you aside and physically beat you anymore because the world we live in, there's lawsuits and shit like that happens and there's cameras everywhere. So that age of prison that was like the 50s, 40s, 30s, maybe even 60s, 70s is like gone now. And this is the new age. So they have like these administrative tools that are less physical torture, although I think being in a cell is a form of physical torture 24 hours a day, and more psychological torture, which is way worse. Physical torture any day. You know what I mean? Physical pain is fleeting and temporary. Psychological pain is, you just can't escape from it. It's just your fucking reality, right? So they told me it's just a tool to break a weak mind, right? And so the key to it, and I found this in I've honestly used it in every other facet of my life is that you've just got to refuse to be broken 100%. Like, and the best thing you can do to thrive in a situation like that and to not give them the satisfaction of winning, of having broke you, is to come out of the hole better, more complete, and stronger than you when you went in. Because the people that really, the sick ones that put you there, that really want to see you broken, they want to see you come out of there like with psychological issues, like medicated, like just totally reliant on the system to sustain you and just no longer any type of threat at all, right? So that's where they want to get you. So the best thing you can do is come out smarter, stronger, just a better, more complete person. So I remember Byron, a friend of mine, he told me that you've got to treat it like a samurai going up into the mountains, like becoming a ronin, so a samurai without a lord and going up into the top of the mountains to be alone for 5 years and to meditate and to train with the katana and just to master his craft and to write poetry and to expand his awareness and his mind. And that's exactly what I did. So first thing I did was I made a schedule, right? It was I'm not, because a lot of people just sleep all day because you're depressed, right? And I was like, I'm not going to give into that cycle. So I made a fucking I made a routine and I made a schedule. I got up at 6 o'clock every morning. I went out to rec every single day. A lot of people don't do that either. They just choose to stay in their cell. I went and took a shower every day that the cops would let me. Sometimes they'd be understaffed or whatever, and you just couldn't. But every chance that they let me out of that fucking box, even if it was to go to another box, a little doggy kennel outside, and not really outside, it's covered, so you're not like getting any vitamin D or anything, but you're getting fresh air. There's a pull-up bar, and I would work out every day. I would draw every day. I would read for a certain amount of time every day. And I would read novels at this time. And I would read some kind of like literature, some kind of nonfiction literature at this time. And I would draw at this time. So it was regimented. And I lived the 2 years I was in there like that. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't fucking do anything other than my program. And I evolved as like it changed me and not for the worst. I went into there an immature, wild fucking kid, and I came out of there a disciplined fucking machine and a man and just a whole different creature. From the suffering, the ordeal of it, because that was the greatest ordeal I've ever gone through in my life. 100%, I'll tell you that. And I've done some crazy ordeals, but it was psychologically, it was the toughest thing I've ever went through in my life. And it's not like every day is a struggle, but think of 3 years in a box alone, 24 hours a day, 23 hours a day, but 24 hours a day. And the like there's crazies in there screaming all day, banging cups on doors. So like even your sleep's disrupted. You have very minimal property, like virtually nothing. You have your mind, and your mind can be your worst enemy or it can be your best fucking friend. And I learned how to make it my best friend. I learned how to sharpen it and hone it into a fucking weapon. And so I did my time. I did the step down program. Back out to the yard, and I just kind of, and so, oh, and while I was in the hole, and it might seem like, oh, duh, of course you could stop getting high because like there's no drugs. There are so many drugs in the hole. That's where they take anybody that has a hot UA. So it's usually fucking flooded because when they give them a hot UA, they got it in their little butthole and then they go fucking, it's a thing. It's a real fucking thing. So yeah, the hole is flooded with fucking dope. But while I was in there and I was going through this process of evolution, I was also digging deeply into the spiritual side of things. And while I was in there, I kind of had like a premonition. I had a kind of an experience with a higher force, and it just convinced me that I had to change. It was almost like I was at a fork in the roads, and it was like I could either just keep going down the road I'm going down, or I could deviate and do something great with my life. I felt that. And so I knew that the thing that was holding me back the most, what we call in business now, the bottleneck, was drugs. That was it. That was the fucking that was the chain that bound me to my old life, to my old friends, to my old peer groups, to this simple basic mindset and mentality and this just limited state. And so I was like, man, if I'm feeling this, and I believe I just had a spiritual experience with some kind of higher intelligence, then I'm a fucking loser if because of that I cannot fucking give up something as petty as fucking drugs for 1 year. And so I swore an oath. I cut my hand open and I swore a blood oath, the most sacred type of oath there is, that I wouldn't get high for 1 year. And those first few months were hard, but it's like, again, with the Norse tradition, honor is everything and oaths are inviolable. And an oath to yourself, like if not, it's the most sacred, like if you can't keep a fucking promise to yourself, like you'll never keep a promise to anybody else. Like, holy shit, that is a miserable fucking human being. I know I would have hated myself if I'd have broke that. So I didn't break it. I just didn't, you know what I mean? And after a few months, I got out of the hole and I was out on the yard and I was watching all the fucking retards I used to hang around with and call my friends and my brothers and all that shit. And I'm watching them and they're all fucking running around, fucking chasing the bag and fucking just like in and out of fucking cells all day. They're not working out. They're not fucking reading shit. they're fucking either watching TV or getting high. And I was like, man, these dudes fucking suck. These dudes are fucking losers. And I used to be one of them, man. I used to look just like that. Run around here like a big ass fucking bird, like a big ass fucking some kind of pterodactyl flopping around fucking trying to eat all the other smaller birds. Like, man, and I was just disgusted. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm never putting that shit in my body again. So I didn't do like AA or any of the shit most people do. No problem with it. It's like whatever works for you. I just went cold turkey. I just decided I was done, and it was like a spiritual thing for me. And then after being detached for a few months and then watching the people that I used to hang out with, I was so disgusted with them as just human beings and their behavior and their activity that I was like, man, I'll never go back to it. And I even had a counselor in one of my my PSR. They actually wrote that I actually believe that Ragnar is disgusted by drugs and drug addicts and the whole culture surrounding it at this stage. And I think there's a very low chance of him relapsing. So they're like they're like trained to cut through your bullshit, right? So it was kind of cool to see that because I was like, man, that's exactly how I feel. Like I couldn't imagine fucking doing that again, looking like that again. Like it's fucking pathetic. I'm disgusted that I ever was, like ever, literally, that I was ever that fucking weak. But I'm very proud of myself that I was one of the few that was able to find the strength to pull out of it because that's really what it comes down to. Like, I mean, we can sugarcoat it and we can fucking talk about addiction and disease and all this shit, but at the end of the day, it's a fucking weakness. You know what I mean? And continuing to be a drug addict is nothing more than a conscious decision to continue choosing a path of weakness over one of strength and fortitude. And I am a living, I can say that because I've done it like 100%. And I know other people that have done it too. So yeah, it's weak. It's weak. You know what I mean? Continuing to choose drugs over everything else in your life is weak. It's a fucking form of weakness. I don't think it's a disease. I don't think it needs fucking counselors and therapists and to be handled with fucking kid gloves and oh, he relapsed. It's oh, poor him. It's like no, man, like he's fucking gaslighting all of you. He's choosing to be fucking weak over strength. And you can't change until you're ready to change. And once I was ready to change, I just fucking changed. That's what worked for me. So I got clean. Man, this is where I started really getting my certifications. I went back to school. I went to Adams State online, started taking online courses related to fitness. I started like kind of, and all I did was work out at that stage. Like I worked out, I read about working out, I read about training, I read about biomechanics and anatomy. I took certification. I got like 9 certifications from ISSA, and I completed fucking the vast majority of a college degree while incarcerated. And it was just like my mind was so hungry. Now that I was clean and I was on this path of self growth and I had all this time, because when you're in prison, you have all this time not gambling. I stopped gambling. I stopped playing cards. I stopped doing anything other than just like spiritual, like just focusing on building myself up mentally, spiritually, and physically. And that was all I did all day long. And it was fucking fantastic. So during this process too, I severely hurt my back training, and that was another thing that got me into fitness. A lot before that, I was like listening to all the fucking gym bros and all these fucking retards, and I was doing all these like super high intensity workouts and like no rest and fucking 3 hour long workouts and just like dumb shit. And so I hurt my shoulder and I hurt my back, and I was like, man, this is fucking retarded. So 2017, I was like, man, I'm gonna learn actually like from somebody who knows what the fuck they're talking about, what the best ways to fucking, to transform the body and to build the body up without breaking it down. And so that's what kind of got me into studying fitness. And then it kind of clicked that like other people are going through that same process that I went through of breaking their body down, of listening to the fucking gym bros and these fucking morons that don't know shit about shit. Um, and just fucking themselves up and setting themselves back. And I was like, man, then once I learned all this stuff, I started training people in there. And I was like, fuck, I wish that I knew somebody 5 years ago when I was tearing my shoulder and shredding my back and fucking my knees up, that would have just like taken me under their wing and fucking showed me the truth of fitness theory and fitness and exercise theory and nutritional theory and how to train and how to periodize your work and have enough rest and recovery and what foods to eat, what supplements to take, just everything you need to know. And I was like, man, and then it kind of clicked. And so, then I just devoted myself to it completely. So in 2016, I got transferred to Goose Creek. My custody had gone down because I wasn't getting in a fight every fucking 2 days now. It's weird how that happens. And I got sent out to old Goose Crizzle, which was a medium security prison. You have a little more freedom. Um, and on the way there, they handed me the keys. So Goose Creek didn't have any good leadership for the gang I was a part of, so I was given the keys to run it. And I kind of took that responsibility serious, and I took it as an opportunity to apply some of this shit that I was learning and I was working on myself to a group of men, right? To a band, to a war band, to a group of men. And it was almost like an ancestral mandate, really. And so rather than like trying to teach them how to inject the most amount of drugs and steal cars the best and do all the other dumb shit that everybody else talks about in fucking jail, I was like trying to get these young kids reading and studying and like picking Nietzsche apart. And we were doing like we had like mandatory reading things, and then we'd do book reports, and we had these Asatru classes where we would talk about history and we would talk about philosophy and we would talk about mythology, and we would talk about all this really cool, stimulating shit. And if you wanted to come out and bloat, do a fire with us, you had to be cleaned for at least 9 days, which was asking a lot from some of these guys. And so we were building this culture of like positivity and of like drug-free positivity, which is so antithetical to the modern prison culture, which is all about drugs and all about negativity. And so we were building up this group, and I'm not gonna lie to you, like some of those years in Goose Creek were some of the best years of my life. Like I was part of a band of men that was aligned with an ideal that I had created that was basically like self evolution and self transformation, and working together to achieve that. And that ties into that's an oathbound band of heroes, man. That is something that all men crave, and it's sick that it only really happens in gangs and in prison at this stage. That is something that is tied to the masculine psyche, that part of European history at the very least, and really probably history all over the world. I'm just most familiar with European history and prehistory. All of the Indo-European tribes had this institution of the war band, which would take men of boys of a certain age set, and it would send them out with esteemed elders and esteemed leaders that would teach them how to become men, how to fight, how to survive in the wild, teach them all the mythology, give them all the knowledge that they needed to return, teach them how to be leaders, teach them how to be effective humans, and then return them to the tribe as like effective members of the tribe who can fight and protect and do all the things that's expected of a man. And that is just missing in modernity. We are isolated. Men are isolated. We're alone. We might have one or two friends, but we don't have that band with rules and accountability and structure. And man, we had that. And granted, it's wasn't the most positive, obviously, but we were like, and I don't really give a shit what anybody said. We were making that positive. We were making it a positive, or at least that was my sole intention. And it was, you're dealing with drug addicts and fucking losers a lot of times. So, but we did have some good people around us. I met some friends in there that I still consider close friends, real friends. And I don't have many of them. There's literally two guys I'm still in touch with from what was 11 years of my life. You know what I mean? And both of those guys are like out and doing fucking fantastic. Like, totally independent fucking careers, houses, all the normal shit, you know what I mean? So, they did not revert at all, and that's why I continue to hang out with them. I don't have anything to say to these idiots that are in and out still and fucking doing the dumb shit. I just don't want it in my life. I'm at a stage in my life where I don't want any chaos or weird shit. So, and I also think that, and this is where like kind of the deeper underlying structures of so obviously prison is governed by violence. Like men's prison is governed by violence. or at least the tacit and implicit threat of violence at all times. Like your reputation precedes you that you are willing to do violence. Your attitude and your aura and your energy emanates that 24/7, 365. Almost everybody in there of any type of fucking standing has that. You know what I mean? You just have zero respect if you haven't proven yourself as somebody who is both willing to fight and also capable of fighting. You're just being willing to fight and get beat up a lot. You're as much of a fucking clown as somebody who won't fight. So both willing to fight and being capable of fighting. And that was why we trained for 2 hours every morning MMA. Because because we weren't like involved in the drug culture and all the negativity of jail, we were a fucking force to be reckoned with, and that was very clear to everybody else in there. And that translated into a fighting career when I got out, so it was great. But I learned very quickly as a leader that, and apes learned this too, so I'm not giving myself a whole lot of credit here, but cooperation is a way more dangerous weapon than chaos. People think that prison's ruled entirely by the strongest, most physically dangerous person. No, it's ruled by the smartest people, 100%. It's ruled not, and maybe not even the most savvy people, and the ones that are the best at cooperating and building alliances and getting people to like them. Because if the whole compound likes you and trusts you, knows you, likes you, and trusts you, you don't really got to worry about shit because whatever you say goes. Your word is like fucking law because everybody looks up to you. Everybody knows you, likes you, and trusts you. So even the other gangs are like, if there's an issue, they're willing to work with you. They'll come to you almost apologetically, like, "Hey man, we got this issue, man, and you guys can resolve it without having to wreck and have everybody go to the hole, which is counterproductive for everybody." So I learned that in there, and that's helped me with business a lot because people are people, and obviously there's not a tacit threat of violence in business, right? Thankfully, I don't miss that part of it. There is in prison, there even amongst your own people, even when you're in a certain gang with people, that the most common form of violence is violence within your own group, um, and it's just how accountability is held. It's how the line's held in there. So there's always that undertone, you know what I mean? But the ability to cooperate, to work with people, to coordinate a team, like I use that in my business now regularly. And I'm not saying that I learned it in prison. I'm still, I'm hire coaches and I go to school for this kind of stuff at this stage, but definitely the foundation and the framework of leadership was forged 100% in prison, without a doubt, 100%. And so that should be inspirational for guys that have done time and have a dark history and have the problems because like you can do something with that. And I'm not talking about something illegal. I'm talking about you can do something great. You can give back. You can make atonement for all the bad fucking shit that you did by using those skills that you cultivated in there because people are people, whether you're in prison or you're out of people, and business is about people. 100%, 100%. It's about fucking people. You're satisfying people, your clients. You're coordinating with a team, which requires some element of accountability tied with an element of cooperation and uplifting and training and, just the whole process. And it creates this cohesive web of humanity. And if you're good at creating that web, then you do great at business. If you fucking suck at it and everybody fucking hates you because you're a dick, you're probably not going to make it very far in business, right? Because nobody's going to know you, like you, or trust you. So, yeah, I wanted to build something in Goose that was outside of the prison norms. It ended up failing, and they kidnapped us all and sent me back to Seward. But it was based on growth, and it was based on unity and a band of men, and it was just we made the best of that time without a doubt. I will say that. So the tail end of that came the COVID era. Pre-DOC went fucking berserk with the lockdowns and the fuckery and all the bullshit. Man, they were so excited to fucking take away everything, and that's what they did. They took away everything. Everything they'd always wanted to take away, COVID gave them the fucking excuse, much like it did out here. To all the little petty bureaucrats and fucking mini tyrants. Yeah, so that was miserable. And it was during that time that we were all kidnapped, and I was sent to fucking Seward, and where I finished it. And Seward was dark after being in Goose, and trying to build something positive and being around people that were trying to do something positive and get clean. Seward was just like highly political, very violent. It was dark. It was pervaded with drugs. It was negativity. The group out there was a whole different group than what I was used to. They were like fighting each other and at each, and not in like a constructive way. They were like, it was like just petty fucking power struggle. It was just disgusting, is what it was. It was just I just did not like Seward the second time around. I did end up getting a job. I just kind of like disentangled myself from all the bullshit, and I got a job on the yard, so I would be like outside all day shoveling snow and fucking working, and then I would work out, and that was all I did. And then I got into the dog program, and I helped train stray dogs and orphan dogs that they were bringing in. And I just kind of just kept to myself and did my own thing, man. And miraculously, early release came, and I wasn't the same man, and I was ready to come out here into society and integrate. And I felt like I was reborn, and I was reborn through pain, and I was reborn through discipline. And that was really what I lacked when I went to prison, and that I cultivated when I came out. And it's kind of like that idea, to steal a Peterson quote of, first you become a monster, then you learn to control it. So I definitely was a monster, and I definitely still am a monster when I need to be. But the difference is that now I control it. So life after prison for me, I applied everything I learned inside to the streets. I got out, I got a job landscaping. I did that until I could start my own training business. I started my own training business, started in person, and that was kind of it's the rest is history. And now, like, I'm doing great, like I'm married the woman that the love of my life, who is amazing, and we have an amazing relationship. Financially, we're set. We don't really worry about anything at this stage. I love what I fucking do. I love helping people. I found a career that coheres with my personality and my background, and and really that values value more than just some. I didn't go the corporate way, right? Because I wouldn't have made it that way because my record and the way that I look. I did my own thing. I'm an entrepreneur. I started my own businesses. I bent the world to my will, and in the process, I get to do what I love, and I get to help people, and I get to give back, and that is immensely satisfying to me at my time. So at this stage of my life, 100%, I believe everything happens for a reason. And I am grateful for every bit of the pain and suffering that I went through. I'm grateful that I went to prison. I'm grateful for all the mistakes that I made because they led me right to this exact point. I've never once felt sorry for myself. Never once. You know what I mean? Because there was nothing to feel sorry for because I made bad choices and I paid the fucking price for them. But ultimately, I don't even look at it like that. I look at it like I'm walking my path. Like this is the path that I was meant to walk. And look where it's led me. I don't know what I would have been if, say, I would have gotten clean on the streets and this would have never happened. Who knows who Ragnar would have became? But I know that I've never been satisfied in any job except for this one. I know that I've never woke up just like happy and like ready to fucking go and face the day like I do now, except for in doing what I'm doing now, because this is what I'm built and born to do. And I know that I wouldn't have ended up with Katie if this hadn't happened. And she's my world, she's the love of my life. And I couldn't imagine a world without her. And I believe she is my soulmate. So, yeah, I don't regret shit. Prison didn't break me, it made me who I am. So, that's my story, man. Like I said, I'm not glorifying anything. I'm not proud of, the things I did. I did what I had to do. Ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what we all do. We do what we have to do. I survived. Um, I survived something that most people wouldn't have survived, and I even managed to thrive in it. And a lot of people judge me for it, but I don't really give a fuck at this stage, Like I'm very happy with the man I've become, and I would not be Ragnar had I have not went through all of that. So, thank you guys for tuning in. That's all. I'm gonna wrap up there, man, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you found it stimulating. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button and share this. I'm trying to build up the podcast and build up the YouTube channel. And so yeah, anything you guys do to share this and to pump it out, and to like it, to give me a review on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, it really, really helps me. Thank you guys so much. Have a great fucking day. Warwolf is out.